For 11 seasons, the Bundys taught us that misery loves company. They were the anti-heroes of suburbia, loud, rude, and unapologetic. But behind the laugh track lay a quiet battlefield. We watch in heartbreaking silence as our beloved Kelly fights a cruel, crippling disease, and we honor the matriarch who survived the unspeakable tragedy of addiction and loss. Tonight, we sit on the old couch one last time to honor the resilience of the most dysfunctional family in history. Ed O'Neill as Al Bundy. Long before he slumped onto that beige couch with his hand in his waistband, Ed O'Neill knew the grit of the working class. Born in the spring of 1946, he was raised in the steel town of Youngstown, Ohio, a place where hard work was the only currency that mattered. He wasn't chasing Hollywood stardom in his youth. He was chasing quarterbacks. A talented athlete, he played defensive line for Youngstown State and was even signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1969. However, the dream of the NFL was cut short when he was cut during training camp. At 41 years old, when the show premiered, he brought a weariness to the role that couldn't be faked, the look of a man who had lived a little too much life before the cameras ever started rolling. Al Bundy was a tragic figure wrapped in comedy, a shoe salesman doomed to relive his 4 touchdowns in a single game at Polk High while miserable customers berated him. Yet O'Neill infused Al with a defiance that resonated with millions. He was the loser who refused to lose his dignity completely, the man who would insult his family to their faces, but destroy anyone else who dared to look at them sideways. We loved him because he said what polite society was too afraid to think. While Al Bundy complained about his life, Ed O'Neill quietly feared he would never escape it. The curse of the iconic character is that the world struggles to see the actor beneath. For years, there was a genuine anxiety that the industry would only ever see him as the shoe salesman. He faced the typecasting that has ended careers fighting to prove he possessed a range that extended beyond insults and grimaces. Married to Catherine Russoff since 1986, he kept his private life guarded, navigating the pressures of immense fame while trying to maintain the normality that Al Bundy always craved but never achieved. Fate, however, had a second act in store that few actors ever achieve. O'Neill shed the skin of Al Bundy to inhabit Jay Pritchett on Modern Family, trading the shoe store for a closet empire. It was a role that earned him multiple Screen Actors Guild Awards and cemented him as a titan of 2 separate television generations. As of December 2025, Ed O'Neill stands as a living legend at the current age of 79. He represents the endurance of the working actor, a man who turned a slump-shouldered defeatist into a victory lap that has lasted 40 years. Katey Sagal as Peggy Bundy. Katey Sagal came from a world far removed from the grungy Bundy living room. Born in early 1954, she was the daughter of a director and a singer raised in the creative hum of Los Angeles. But her early life was marked by devastating loss. Her mother passed away from heart disease in 1975, and in a cruel twist of fate, her father died in an accidental death on a film set in 1981. She was 33 years old when she donned the leopard print, bringing with her a soulful depth honed by tragedy and a musical career that saw her singing backup for legends like Bob Dylan. Peggy Bundy was the anti-mother. She didn't bake cookies, she smoked on the couch and demanded affection from a husband who would rather be anywhere else. Sagal made Peggy lovable not despite her laziness, but because of her verve. She was vibrant, sexual, and unapologetic. She taught a generation of women that they didn't have to be perfect homemakers to be the queens of their castles. Behind the laughter and the wig, Sagal endured a heartbreak that blurred the lines between fiction and reality. In 1991, while filming, she became pregnant. The show's writers wrote the pregnancy into the storyline to accommodate her joy. However, trauma struck when she underwent an emergency C-section in her 7th month, and her baby girl did not survive. The grief was unimaginable. To protect her, the show retconned the entire season as a dream sequence, erasing the pregnancy from the canon, but the scar on her heart remained. She eventually found happiness marrying 3 times most recently to Kurt Sutter and raising children who were kept far from the spotlight that had burned her before. Katey Sagal proved to be a chameleon of extraordinary talent. She shed Peggy's spandex to voice the tough-as-nails Leela in Futurama and terrified audiences as the matriarch in Sons of Anarchy. In recent years, she returned to sitcom roots in The Connors, showing that her timing is as sharp as ever. Today, at the current age of 71, Katey Sagal is revered as one of the most versatile performers in the business. She survived the darkness of her early years to build a legacy defined not by tragedy, but by resilience and an undeniable multifaceted talent. Christina Applegate as Kelly Bundy. Christina Applegate was destined for the screen, but fame came for her before she could even drive a car. Born in the winter of 1971, she was a child of Hollywood stepping into the spotlight when she was barely out of diapers. She was just 16 years old when she took on the role of Kelly Bundy. While most teenagers were worrying about prom dates, Applegate was performing in front of millions, navigating the treacherous waters of adolescence while being painted as the ultimate dumb blonde stereotype. Kelly Bundy could have been a one-note joke, a caricature of teenage promiscuity and vapidity. Instead, Applegate turned her into a comedic weapon. Her timing was impeccable, her malapropisms legendary. She made Kelly endearing, a girl who was street smart in her own peculiar way and fiercely loyal to her dysfunctional clan. Men wanted to date her, but women wanted to protect her. The scripts on the show were chaotic, but Applegate's real life would test her spirit in ways no writer could invent. In 2008, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, leading to a double mastectomy, a physical and emotional trial she faced with public grace. Years later, in 2021, fate dealt another heavy blow when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS. The disease attacked her mobility, forcing the vibrant actress to step back from on-screen roles. Even in her youth, she touched tragedy. She was present at the Viper Room on that Halloween night in 1993 when River Phoenix collapsed, witnessing the fragility of life firsthand. Despite these immense physical challenges, she refused to disappear. She poured her soul into Dead to Me, delivering a raw, powerful performance that mirrored her own resilience. Recently, she received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a barefoot ceremony as the shoes were too painful to wear, standing tall with the aid of a cane and the love of her peers. Now, at 54 years old, Christina Applegate is more than a sitcom star. She is a symbol of survival. She has faced mortality and chronic illness with a wit and honesty that has inspired millions, proving that the toughest Bundy was the daughter all along. David Faustino as Bud Bundy. While his on-screen sister was the object of desire, David Faustino represented the awkward reality of growing up male in America. Born in early 1974, he was the baby of the cast. He was merely 13 years old when the show launched, spending his most formative developmental years on a soundstage in Culver City. For a decade, his puberty voice cracks and growth spurts were documented for national consumption, a unique pressure cooker for any young man. Bud Bundy was the schemer, the wannabe rapper, Grandmaster B, and the foil to Kelly's effortless popularity. Faustino played Bud with a frantic, eager energy that made him the perfect punching bag for Al and the perfect co-conspirator for the audience. We rooted for Bud because he tried so hard, even when his attempts at coolness failed spectacularly. He was the intelligent underdog in a house of proud failures. Transitioning from child star to adult actor is a notoriously treacherous path, and Faustino hit his bumps in the road. The silence after the applause stops can be deafening. In 2007, he faced legal troubles with a misdemeanor marijuana arrest, a moment that hinted at the struggles of adjusting to life after the Bundy household. He faced the dissolution of his first marriage to Andrea Elmer, navigating the personal heartbreak that often accompanies public life. The loss of his younger sister in a car accident in 1998 was a private tragedy that underscored the fragility of his world. Yet Faustino found his footing not in front of the camera, but behind the microphone. He reinvented himself as a successful voice actor in hits like The Legend of Korra and became a radio personality. He found stability in his personal life as well, embracing fatherhood with his partner Lindsey Bronson. David Faustino has successfully navigated the child star curse. At 51, he remains a working professional who embraced his past without letting it consume his future, proving that Bud Bundy eventually figured it all out. David Garrison as Steve Rhoades. David Garrison was a creature of the theater, not the sitcom set. Born in the summer of 1952, his heart beat in time with the rhythm of Broadway. He was a classically trained performer who understood the nuances of the stage. At 35 years old, he stepped into the shoes of Steve Rhoades, bringing a level of sophistication and neurotic energy that contrasted perfectly with the base humor of the Bundys. Steve Rhoades was the straight man, the banker who looked down on Al Bundy while secretly envying Al's disregard for societal norms. Garrison played Steve's slow descent from a buttoned-up yuppie to a man corrupted by Al's influence with brilliant subtlety. His chemistry with Amanda Bears-Marcy was electric, grounding the show's zanier moments in a recognizable suburban dynamic. The pain for Garrison was professional rather than personal tragedy. He made the difficult, risky decision to leave a hit show at the height of its popularity. He feared the golden handcuffs of television. He feared being owned by a character named Steve. While the paycheck was secure, his artistic soul was starving for the stage. Leaving meant walking away from a fortune to chase the uncertain applause of the theater, a move that many in Hollywood whispered was a mistake. Garrison's gamble paid off in artistic fulfillment. He returned to his first love, the stage, building a formidable resume that included originating the role of the Wizard in the touring production of Wicked. He spent decades doing exactly what he loved, free from the typecasting that plagued his co-stars. Now, at the current age of 73, David Garrison is a respected veteran of the arts. He remains the only cast member who left the party early and never looked back with regret, prioritizing his craft over the easy comfort of sitcom fame. Ted McGinley as Jefferson Darcy. Ted McGinley had the face of a leading man and the timing of a character actor. Born in 1958, he had already been a part of iconic television history with roles in Happy Days and The Love Boat, before he ever met the Bundys. He was 29 years old when he arrived to fill the void left by David Garrison, walking into a well-oiled machine and tasked with making the audience forget the character they had loved for 4 seasons. Jefferson Darcy was the polar opposite of Steve Rhoades. He was a gigolo, a pretty boy, and a scam artist who was just as lazy as Al Bundy. McGinley leaned into the joke of his own good looks, playing Jefferson as a man who survived solely on charm and his wife's money. He became Al's true partner in crime, the beta to Al's alpha, creating a new dynamic that helped the show sustain its momentum for another 7 years. For years, McGinley bore the brunt of an unfair industry joke that he was a show killer, the actor brought in when a series was on its last legs. It was a label that ignored the reality that Married with Children ran for years after his arrival. It takes a thick skin to hear your career reduced to a punchline, to work harder than anyone else, only to be called a bad omen. He balanced this professional stigma while raising a family with his wife, actress Gigi Rice, keeping his head down and doing the work. McGinley silenced the critics by simply never stopping. He became a staple of television, proving his comedic chops over and over again. Recently, he has found acclaim in the Apple TV Plus series Shrinking, showing a new generation that his charm has not faded with time. At 67, Ted McGinley gets the last laugh. He is a survivor of the fickle nature of Hollywood, a working actor who turned a guest spot into a legacy and proved that he was never the show killer, he was the secret weapon. Michael the Briard as Buck Bundy. In a cast of humans shouting for attention, the soul of the show was a shaggy Briard sheepdog named Michael. Born around 1983, he was brought to the set as a working animal trained to hit his marks and tolerate the chaos of a sitcom taping. He was roughly 4 years old when the show began, a hairy, distinct presence amidst the spandex and denim. Buck was the cynic in fur. Through voiceovers provided by the writers, Buck articulated the audience's thoughts, insulting his owners and lamenting his lack of food. But even without the voiceover, Michael the dog was a brilliant performer. His ability to look unimpressed, to sigh on cue, and to stare judgmentally at Al Bundy made him a star. He represented the trapped spirit of the household, a creature of dignity forced to live in squalor. The tragedy of loving an animal is that their lives are heartbreakingly short compared to our own. As the seasons wore on, viewers watched Michael age. The spring in his step faded. The fur turned gray. The show eventually had to retire him, writing his death into the series a moment of genuine sorrow for a comedy built on insults. It was a reminder that time comes for everyone, even the beloved family pet. Michael passed away on May 28, 1996, at the age at death of 13. In the show's lore, he was reincarnated as a spaniel named Lucky, but in reality there was no replacing him. Though he has been deceased for nearly 30 years, Buck remains the most famous dog in sitcom history. He was the only member of the family who never disappointed us, a good boy in a bad home. Matt LeBlanc as Vinnie Verducci. Before the coffee shop and the "How you doing, Matt LeBlanc" was a struggling actor just trying to pay the rent. Born in the summer of 1967 in Newton, Massachusetts, he came from a blue-collar background, the son of a mechanic. He was just 20 years old when he landed the recurring role on Married with Children. He was young, broke, and hungry, possessed of a devastating charm, but with barely a dollar to his name. Vinnie Verducci was the prototype for what would become LeBlanc's signature persona, the dim-witted but golden-hearted Italian-American. As Kelly's boyfriend, he was a silent slapstick genius, a character who could barely comprehend the world around him, but moved through it with unearned confidence. He was so magnetic that he was given 2 spin-off attempts. Top of the Heap and Vinnie and Bobby, neither of which survived, but both of which proved he was a star in waiting. LeBlanc's ascent to global superstition with Friends masked deep personal trials. In 2004, his infant daughter began suffering from severe seizures, a condition later diagnosed as cortical dysplasia. It was a terrifying time for a new father watching his child struggle while the world demanded he be funny. His marriage to Melissa McKnight collapsed under the strain, ending in divorce in 2006. The end of Friends and the failure of his spin-off Joey left him at a crossroads, leading him to retreat to his ranch to heal and hide from the glare of celebrity. LeBlanc engineered a brilliant second act. He returned with silver hair and a sharper wit in episodes, playing a fictionalized version of himself, and won a Golden Globe for his honesty. He charmed a new continent as the host of Top Gear and led the sitcom Man with a Plan. At 58, Matt LeBlanc is an icon. He took a small, recurring role as a Bundy boyfriend and used it as a stepping stone to become one of the most beloved faces on the planet. Pamela Anderson as the Bimbo. Pamela Anderson was the girl from Ladysmith, British Columbia, who seemed to drop from the sky. Born on Canada Day in 1967, she was discovered at a football game, her image projected onto a jumbotron. She was 20 years old when she appeared on the Bundy set. She was not a main cast member, credited simply as Cashew or Bimbo, but her presence was undeniable. She was the fantasy-made flesh, a visual shockwave that fit perfectly into the show's heightened reality. Her role was small, designed to be a visual punchline for Al Bundy's lust. Yet even in those brief moments, Anderson possessed a magnetism that the camera loved. She was the ultimate Bundy girl, an exaggerated ideal of beauty that Al dreamed of but could never attain. It was a stepping stone that launched her toward Baywatch and global domination. The blonde bombshell image hid a life of profound trauma. Anderson revealed years later that she was a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and witnessed horrific domestic violence between her parents. Her adult life became a public spectacle, marked by tumultuous marriages to rock stars like Tommy Lee and Kid Rock. She endured physical abuse, the violation of the stolen sex tape, and the mockery of a media that refused to see her as a human being. She was diagnosed with hepatitis C, fighting a private health battle while the tabloids picked her apart. But Pamela Anderson refused to be a victim. She reclaimed her narrative with a raw documentary and a Broadway debut as Roxy Hart in Chicago, earning rave reviews. She stripped away the makeup and the persona to reveal the intelligent, gentle activist beneath. Now, at the current age of 58, she is finally receiving the respect she was denied for decades. She is a survivor of the misogyny of the 90s, a mother and a woman who walked through fire and came out smiling. Harold Sylvester as Griff. Harold Sylvester brought a quiet intellect to a show that celebrated stupidity. Born in early 1949 in New Orleans, his journey was defined by breaking barriers. He was not just an actor, he was a pioneer. He was the first African-American to receive an athletic scholarship to Tulane University, graduating in 1972. He was 38 years old when the show premiered, bringing with him the discipline of an athlete and the mind of a writer. Griff joined the cast in the later seasons as Al's co-worker at Gary's Shoes. He was a fellow member of No Ma'am, a divorced man who shared Al's misery but often possessed a sharper tongue. Sylvester played Griff with a dry, deadpan delivery that grounded Al's manic energy. He was the friend who would follow Al into hell, or at least into a strip club, providing a necessary camaraderie in the lonely world of shoe sales. For an actor of Sylvester's caliber, the struggle was often one of opportunity. While he was playing the sidekick on a sitcom, he was a man capable of profound, dramatic work. The industry often struggles to see past the comedy to recognize the scholar and the athlete beneath the character-actor facade. He worked steadily, but the hidden pain of many character actors is the fight to be seen as a lead to have their own stories told rather than supporting others. Sylvester channeled his experiences into penning the screenplay for Passing Glory, a movie based on his own history as a basketball player during the civil rights era. He continued to work appearing in films like An Officer and a Gentleman, proving that there are no small parts, only prepared actors. Even 76 years old, Harold Sylvester stands as a testament to versatility. He is the athlete-turned-artist, the scholar-turned-comedian, a man who brought dignity to the shoe store and paved the way for others behind him. E. Bell as Bob Rooney. In the constellation of the Bundy universe, E. Bell was the reliable North Star of the supporting cast. Born right after Christmas in 1955, Bell had the kind of face that felt instantly familiar, like a neighbor you'd known for years. He was 32 years old when the show launched a working actor grinding through auditions, looking for that one recurring gig that could anchor a career. He was never just Bob. He was always Bob Rooney. It was a running gag that became his trademark. As the treasurer of No Ma'am and a butcher, he represented the average American male that the show satirized and celebrated. Bell played Bob Rooney with a jovial follower mentality, always ready to agree with Al's worst ideas. He was an essential part of the ensemble, the Greek chorus of middle-aged frustration that surrounded Al Bundy. Unlike the dramatic headlines of his co-stars, Bell's struggle was the quiet, unglamorous grind of the that guy actor. There were no high-profile scandals, just the relentless pressure to secure the next job. In an industry that discards faces daily, staying relevant is a silent battle. The uncertainty of the profession, where weeks can turn into months without a call, is a burden every character actor carries, hiding the anxiety behind a professional smile. Bell's persistence was his superpower. He didn't fade away when the show ended. He appeared in everything from The Amanda Show to the Coen brothers' Hail Caesar, proving his range from teen comedy to high-art cinema. He kept working, kept showing up, and kept being the reliable presence directors needed. At the current age of 70, E. Bell is a survivor of the trenches. He may not have the magazine covers, but he has the resume. He remains Bob Rooney to millions, the man with the double name and the steady career, a vital piece of the puzzle that made Married with Children whole.